Hey guys, Steven here, Fanatic Perspective. I'm on the road, so forgive some of the light challenges, but we are here on the Bleacher Report app, talking Texas. Welcome to Longhorn Weekly here, recapping the Florida game, getting ready for the Arkansas game this weekend. You guys know how I've said all season they're on the belt to ass list, so BTA coming. I'm gonna tell you why. We'll get our revenge versus the Arkansas Razorbacks this Saturday. And, I didn't touch on this last week, but we are right now, here in the college football rankings aspect now, right? So I actually want to start there. Chime in, hit me up in the chat. We get interactive here. Check in. It's your boy Steve, Fanatic Perspective. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that like button, subscribe the whole bit. If you're watching here on Bleacher Report, show some love, engage. Look, I thought we moved to the SEC because it was the biggest, baddest conference. I was told that the SEC was a gauntlet. I was told that it would be a harder conference than the Big 12, the level of competition week in, week out, the physicality, all of that. And I believe my program was also told those same things. So forgive us for preparing for what you guys told us. Forgive us for preparing to have depth at every position. Forgive us for preparing to play, physical defense, improve and have SEC speed. Forgive us for putting together a coaching staff to have continuity coming into this conference where we got a bunch of coaches from the SEC that dominated the SEC. And now they're here dominating at Texas as they left dominating the Big 12 champions last year. Forgive us for making the playoffs last year and just, keeping the party going 20-3 over the last 2 years. Because this narrative has gotten out of hand of Texas not being overrated, not playing anybody. And for those who don't know, we are now number 3 in the playoff poll, in the playoff rankings, right? And it's different now with it being a 12-teamer, but it's something that has become annoying because now we're acting like the only metric that exists is strength of schedule. We're acting as if who you've lost to or how many losses you have doesn't matter, or how you look doesn't matter, or what, some of the advanced statistics say about the depth, or even, shoot, God forbid we bring up Florida State. We know their fan base is dealing with a damn near mental illness. You can see it with Danny Cannell. He's over here talking about SMU should be ranked ahead of Texas. They have a better resume, blah, blah, blah. So the ACC is better than the SEC. Is that what we're saying? Is that what we're saying? It's BYU. I mean, they lost to BYU. I guess that's a better loss than losing to Georgia. I don't know. But we got people saying on all sorts of stuff. But, somebody like a Danny Cannell should know that his team didn't make the playoffs last year because of the situation that his team was in without Jordan Travis and the lack of quarterback play and their offense falling off a cliff. So there's multitudes of factors for why teams are ranked the way that they are. And if we want to get into it's funny because people want to have the strength of schedule conversation, but they don't want to have the common opponent conversation. Listen to me now. People want to have the strength of schedule conversation when it comes to Texas, but they don't want to have the common opponent conversation. Because I don't want to hear a Bama fan talking about Texas hasn't played nobody when you lost to Vanderbilt and we beat them. Okay? I don't want to hear from Texas A&M fans talking about we're road tested, we're road warriors, and Texas has no skin in the game and all this type of stuff. When your road wins are Mississippi State and Florida, who we beat the dog shit out of both of those teams. And y'all were in competitive games against both of those teams. Well, the Florida game, they went out. And I'm not going to, but the Mississippi State game was a competitive game. And we both played Michael Van Buren. So it's not even like one team saw a different quarterback. It's not like we played the Blake Shapen Mississippi State. We both have played Mississippi State. But if you want to get credit, I would like to say that beating Vanderbilt in Nashville is a more impressive road win than beating Mississippi State and beating Florida. Two teams that are not going to a bowl, and you want to beat your chest over because those are resume building wins. Really? LSU and Missouri are good wins if you're Texas A&M, but that's not enough, in my opinion, to just override eye test, to override the fact that Texas has a top 10 offense and a top 10 defense, to override the fact that Texas A&M's best offensive player is now out for the season. Tennessee and Georgia are about to play. Nico's might not even make the game because of concussion. Does that not factor into where Tennessee, if they take a loss, these things matter? It wouldn't just be, well, Tennessee beat Bama, so they're ahead of everybody. So the loss at Arkansas don't count because we're about to have a common opponent because we don't play Tennessee. We both, and in this case, we both having to go to Arkansas. Now, that leads to another thing. When did you play some of these teams? Some of these teams aren't ranked because we whooped their ass so bad they felt we broke them. Some of these teams are not ranked because we broke them. I recall Vanderbilt being ranked when we played them. I'm sorry. I'm going to go all the way back to Michigan because, damn it, we scheduled Michigan well before we even moved into this conference, but we had Michigan. People were before the season, we're talking about how will Texas navigate this type of this schedule? How will they deal with the SEC schedule and having to go to Michigan in the non-con? And now it's, you haven't played anybody. It's very, very interesting to me, and this happens every year in college football. You think it would die down a little bit with the 12 team? It hasn't. This all of us, this jockeying in the political side of the game for issues. If you really feel that Texas is overrated, put your money on other teams. Put your money where your mouth is. If you really feel Texas is overrated, then tell me why SMU will beat Texas if they play head to head. Tell me why Miami would beat Texas if they played head to head. Tell me why Tennessee would be favored over Texas or Texas A&M. Present the football argument, okay, why they would beat Texas. Because the other thing too is, when I say eye test, Texas has not been playing with their food for the most part. On top of that, we had a quarterback out on PTO for half the season. How come we don't get credit for that? How come Texas don't get credit for Quinn Ewers missing so much time? And then when he came back, he was injured half the damn time. Our quarterback just now getting healthy. Not to mention Isaiah Bond has missed time. Andrew Makuba has missed time. Texas had injuries all over the place, just like everybody else. But I'm sorry, we're deep. I'm sorry, we actually have more than – I'm sorry we made it look easier than what it's supposed to be. And I know somebody's going to tag this video and say typical Texas arrogance. Well, you know what? I don't give a damn anymore because I was told last year, oh, we in a chicken shit conference, blah, blah, blah. Okay, we moved up to the big boy league. We in the SEC, right? It's supposed to be a gauntlet, right? But see, these SEC, these old legacy SEC fans that are not Bama or Georgia fans, they're used to riding other teams' coattails. Do you hear me? If you're a Kentucky fan, shut up. You have nothing to stand on. They're used to riding other teams' coattails. Because I got A&M fans coming at me about our schedule, but they won't use their schedule. They'll use Georgia's schedule, or they'll use somebody else because that's what they've gotten used to. See, at Texas, whether we're good or bad, we're used to stand on our own merit and our own 2 feet. Good or bad. Good or bad. So this playoff narrative of stuff, where I come from, if you have a top 10 offense and a top 10 defense, and you're coming off of being a playoff team last year of the 4 teams, where we returned 60-70% of those starters from a playoff team. So when I say this team is battle tested, that is over time. That is over time. That is over some of the teams that have been put together in the transfer portal. Okay. This Texas team and this Texas coaching staff is more proven than some of your favorite teams out there. This Texas team and this Texas staff are more proven than some of your favorite teams out there. All right, let me get off my soapbox. I sound like Umar now. Yes, we look, we beat up on Florida. I'm not over here trying to beat my chest about a Florida win. I know how beat up they were. No DJ Lagway. Nobody in the secondary played. But we didn't look like trash under those conditions. We went out there and didn't play with our food and handled our business like we've been doing for the most part when we've had relatively healthy and good quarterback play. And that has been, and defensively, we've stood on business since day one. Defensively, we've stood on business since day one. This has now become one of the best secondaries in the country, if not the best secondary in the country. When I look at, led by a guy like a Jayden Barron, right? Jayden Barron, who I have him on the short list of finalists for the Thorpe, in my opinion. Him, Travis Hunter. I look at a Caleb Downs from Ohio State, who's gone over there and elevated their secondary and been amazing. He really stood out, especially in that Penn State game with his coverage and ability on Tyler Warren. So those are the top creme de la creme guys. But Jayden Barron is right there with how he's played and holding in the multiple positions that he's played. Again, considering the injuries that Texas had to deal with in their secondary this season. So when I look at that high level of play and this matchup going into the Arkansas game, Jayden Barron is one of those guys that was on the Texas team in the field in 2021 when we went and got Wazaza whooped in Fayetteville. I call it Fayetteville. I know it's Fayetteville, but I call it Fayetteville because that place can get crazy. I have a lot of respect for how disruptive the Arkansas fan base can be, especially when they're juiced up. As a Tennessee fan, it was Fright Night when them boys went down there this year, but they act like they, anyway. I do think, though, in this particular game, 11 a.m. kickoff, Arkansas having 2 weeks to prepare, having 2 weeks to get healthier. We'll see what the conditions are with Taylor Green, Jaquinda Jackson, some of the better athletes and bigger athletes too. But is Arkansas, do they have fight left in them? I know that they'll bring fight for Texas. Look, they'll get up for Texas. That team you saw against Ole Miss, I do not expect to see that team against Texas. But what I do think will be a big factor in this is a foundational game for Steve Sarkisian. Again, a rivalry game, our second rivalry game of the season. I told you guys there's 3 teams on the belt to ass list: OU, Arkansas, and Texas A&M. And now we get to go back to that place, that scary place that Arkansas came out and physically showed you that Texas was not ready for SEC play. But now we come back and we have an opportunity to go to that same place and show y'all that it don't matter what conference we in, we are one of the best teams and have been one of the best teams in all of America, and leave no doubt. And I think Texas is going to go down there and bang and be physical, but also show off that SEC speed and ability to break away some big plays, just like Ole Miss was able to generate in the passing game. There's a reason why Sark, started kind of dialing stuff up a little bit more for Quinn Ewers, knowing that we're going to have to become more proficient throwing the football down the field, especially with him in the lineup and getting ready for some of the tests to come. This is a great opportunity to take advantage of an Arkansas team that has been very, very susceptible to explosive plays and chunk plays. I look for Texas to go in there and absolutely get revenge and be hungry, especially with the narrative going around. There's nothing. All you can do is control your schedule and play who's on the schedule. Play what's there. Again, an SEC schedule that apparently, it's funny. The same people that love to gas up the SEC are the same people bashing the schedule. Which one is it? Either the teams are either this is a good conference or it's not. But you control who you control. You play who you play. The other thing I wanted to really get in depth here, and again, please chime in the comments if you will. I'm looking at this as an opportunity for Texas to really establish that Quinn Ewers is all the way back with consistency, right? He had a big game, one of his best games as a Texas Longhorn last week, 300 plus yards passing, 5 touchdowns. The accuracy was much improved, especially throughout the game, and doing a better job of just executing the game plan. One thing with Quinn, though, is he has been phenomenal on the road. He's been really, really good on the road. That was probably Quinn's best home game last week. So Quinn being a road warrior, going into hostile territory, I think he's going to have another big performance and really start to stack together some good games like he did towards the end of last year when we started to make our run going into the Big 12 championship. I look for Quinn to, again, show he's healthy, have better movement, and really put some pressure on Arkansas deep down the field and attack those guys. So this game is, at this point, all Texas can do is keep piling it on, putting together big quarters, explosive plays, and honestly, with what we've been able to do, we've been able to get guys in the game to increase that depth. Sadir Mitchell, who I called out last week for having a great practice and being talked about by the staff, that's a guy who was then rewarded with playing time in the Florida game and did a fantastic job of making his presence felt once he got in. So guys like that are going to be huge down the stretch, being added to an already solid rotation, right? Alfred Collins is having his breakout season. Vernon Broughton was, we were short some snaps, knowing he was going to be suspended. He's back all the way. Jermaine Lole has come on and just really come on strong as the season's gone on. You got other guys like Bill Norton in there. So Ethan Burke playing some 3-tech, going to inside and outside. This is a Texas team. Again, going back to the original rant, if you think they're overrated, please give me football reasons why they would not be favored and why they would lose to some of these other teams. Or are we only looking at one metric? Because the responsibility of the committee is to put the 12 best teams in there and obviously the 4 teams that win the conference. So right now, Texas with 1 loss, Texas A&M with 1 loss, and Tennessee 1 loss. We know Tennessee is going to play Georgia, so that could potentially be an elimination game in some ways. We'll see. But this has been a fascinating part of the month as we're starting to see what this vision of a potential 12-team playoff will look like, considering the Big Ten teams, the ACC teams, and all of those things. So, I mean, let me go into some of the numbers I have here for Texas. So right now, Texas is 6th in the country in offense and 4th in the country in defense. They're averaging almost 40 points per game. They're only giving up 12 points per game. And they're number 1 in college football in yards allowed per game. They're number 1 in college football in yards allowed per play. What are we talking about? What are we talking about? This is a team that's also top 10, 7th in the country in yards gained per game. Again, that's with quarterback health issues. That's with multiple running backs being back there. That's with multiple receivers being in and out of the lineup. To me, the only issue that Texas is really having right now is on their special teams, which is a concern of mine when we play some of the better teams. That's a concern I do have. Texas special teams needs to improve. And I'm going to continue to say that on every platform I'm on, every show that I do, talking Texas, okay? Because that needs to pick up, or else we will be in when we're in a close game, whether it's on the road or in the playoffs, that could come back to nip us. Whether it's it's really all around the kicking game that has not been up to standard here for Texas. Now, the other thing I want to call out is guys who, some of the unsung guys that will pop up, potentially even starting this week. We talked a lot about Contravian Wisener in this running back room. Jarrett Gibson had 100 yards rushing last week, but also had a couple fumbles and been up and down. But the guy that has really been kind of on a roller coaster of a season, but I think is rounding out at the right time, is Jayden Blue. I think Jayden Blue is going to be a big weapon for Texas down the rest of the stretch of the season, and especially of how he's being used. One of the things I talked about with one of my buddies, Tran, who comes on Fanatic Perspective all the time, one of the legendary co-hosts there, shout out Jay Tran, is last week, Jayden Blue's ability in open space, not just to make guys miss, but to be one of the most electric players in the country and really break out chunk runs when not a whole lot is there, right? That's one guy that has that ability paired with what we already featured from the receivers to help make up for maybe not having the most productivity in the quarterback run game or having all of that where a quarterback can extend plays and run around. We don't have that luxury with Quinn, right? He's going to have to get the ball out. He's going to have to be decisive and married up timing-wise with his offensive line. But, hey, those flip passes out to the back to get it out in his hands quicker and just getting Jayden Blue into space, I've been impressed with how he's being used recently and how he's starting to look with the proper amount of touches. I think there's a place where there's too many for him, and I think there's a place where there's too few. But that 12 to 15, 17 touch range, I think seems to be the sweet spot for Jayden Blue to be his best self, because that player right there makes Texas almost unguardable when you really think about it, and how he's the manipulation of space, because a lot of these linebackers you're seeing can't keep up with them. Even on pass concepts, when he's banging out a Texas route and coming back across the linebacker's face, that's really difficult to keep up with a guy that explosive. I said the brother runs like Sonic when he get going, and it's true. So, marrying that, Isaiah Baum being back healthy, welcome back. I mean, you saw the reverse that Sark ran, and I want to give some credit to Sark. I don't think I've talked about Sark enough here on this Bleacher Report platform. Steve Sarkisian has been in his bag recently from a play calling perspective, and I've been impressed with what he's done all season. Just Sark the play caller, Sark the play designer. I haven't loved the lack of inside runs, and I'd want a little bit more there. And I do want us to have a little bit more physicality and get going downhill with our offensive line. And I know that's also part of personnel with the backs, right? When you have a smaller back guy like Wisener, who's more of an outside zone runner, wide zone runner, as well as Blue, it's a little difficult. Gibson seems to be that guy, but he has ball security challenges. Excuse me. But other than that reverse, bro, Sark is in his bag this year. I've been impressed. I've really been impressed. Excuse me. He's really been trying to get my breath back. He's been so dynamic, manipulating space and putting guys in a bind. That's why I think it's funny when we talk about matchups, the coaching matchup, right? A lot of these teams. He's coming to the SEC and he's doing a lot of the things he did when he was calling plays at Bama and putting some of these same defenses and teams in a bind. And I look to see that against how he handles, again, this Arkansas game coming up with Lord knows the weaknesses they have on within their secondary, as well as also on the front seven. I mean, how down they've been compared to where they were early in the season. But Sark has really impressed me in those areas. And I think, there's growth and development as a coach. right? I think he has learned a lot about himself, not just his team, but about himself, and running his staff and running a program since 2021, being at Texas. He is earned a lot of respect from me. From me. So my voice is going. Apologies there. Anyway, I'm going to wrap up because my voice is cutting in and out. But Arkansas is on the belt to ass list. Sark's been in his bag. and Texas fans, if you're listening, don't let people talk mess. Especially folks that were nowhere near the playoffs last year. We right back here, really in a similar spot to where we were. That 3-4 range. So same spot, different conference. What more you want? Anyway, I got to go figure out what's going on my throat. Allergies are going crazy. Subscribe, hit the like button. Focus camera, hit the like button, whole bit. Horns always up. Hook 'em.